Okay, so today we're going to look at the sides of triangles and then figuring out what sort of triangle is actually formed. And the way we're going to do that is kind of based on the Pythagorean theorem right here. So remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is the longest side. In this case, if it's equal, you have a right triangle. Like this example right here. If we had 3, 4, and 5, that makes a right triangle. Because 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 9 plus 16 is 25. They're equal. Great. Now, here's what happens. If a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, if these are bigger, 16 plus 16 is 32, which is bigger than 25, you get yourself an acute triangle right here, which you can kind of see. I mean, you can see because of this 90-degree angle right here, this is clearly less than 90, and these are less than 90. Like, this is obviously less, and this is less. So that's an acute triangle. Now, if a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, 16 plus 16 is 32 again, and that's 49. Oh no, 49 is bigger than 32. Whatever, it's fine. You just get an obtuse triangle. And you can see that that's obtuse because right here, this angle in between the two fours is greater than 90 degrees. So, there you go. That's the rules that you need to remember. A squared plus b squared is greater than c squared. It's acute. If they're equal, it's right. And if a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, it's obtuse. So here we go. We got a bunch of examples with this. And remember, the main thing, what we're actually trying to figure out is we're going to look at a squared plus b squared, and we're going to compare it to c squared. Now, another thing to remember that's going to be super important here, c is always the longest side. In a right triangle, it's called the hypotenuse. In our work, it's going to be the longest side. So let's just quick go through here. All right, C is 6, C is 5, C is 13, C is 14. All right, great. They're already listed for us. That sounds awesome. So here's what we have to do first. What we want to start with is we're going to start with, A and B doesn't matter which one's which. So for a squared plus b squared, this would be 3 squared plus 4 squared. All right, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. Add them up, you get 25. And then for c squared, you do 6 squared. 6 squared is 36. 36 is greater than 25. So in this case, c squared is bigger than a squared plus b squared, which means we have ourselves an obtuse triangle right here, based on the inequalities from the last slide, which you should have written down by now. All right, let's check it out again here. All right, 3 and 4 again. So that's easy. 3 squared plus 4 squared. All right, 9 plus 16. Okay, 25. And then for c, c's 5, so c squared is 5 squared, which is 25. I almost got ahead of myself right there. So 25, 25 equals, yep, that's an easy one, equals 25, which means that's a right triangle. And 3, 4, 5, by the way, is a super popular right triangle. It's one of the more famous ones out there. Any multiples of 3, 4, and 5 are also a right triangle. So for example, another right triangle would be, if you do times 2, 6, 8, and 10. Or if you do times 3, 9, 12, 15. You get it, it goes on forever and ever. Yeah, cool. All right, so next example here, we got 10 squared plus 12 squared. All right, 10 squared is 100 plus 144. That's 244. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare that to 13 squared, which is 169. All right, well, 244 is greater than 169, which means that's an acute triangle. All right, let's look at this one here. We got 6, 8, and 14. Oh, no. There's an issue here. You know what the issue is? And it came up in that Desmos assignment yesterday. 6 plus 8 equals 14. So if you have a side of 6 and a side of 8 and a side of 14, what's going to happen here is you can't make a triangle. No matter what, it's not going to work. So quick visual, if you have a side of 6 and a side of 8, pretend that they're together or something. Yeah, pretend that they barely touch right there. And a side of 14, you'll never be able to put those together. They'll just lay right on top of each other. So what this means is we can't even make a triangle here, so forget it. This is a lie. What you always need these two sides to add up and be more than the longest side. Otherwise, you're just never going to be able to make a triangle, which we looked at in the Desmos activity yesterday. So what you need to do for this assignment is you need to fill in this chart. And basically what you're looking at is, side 1, side 2, doesn't matter what you call those. Like this could be A on this column and this could be B. That makes the most sense, I suppose. Or you could flip them, B and A, doesn't matter. But this third column is always the longest side length, which means this is your C. So what you want to do, A squared, square that, plus B squared, square that, add them up after you square them, compare it to C squared, and depending on which kind it is, you say what type of triangle it is. And like here, you would be filling in the C to make it a right triangle. And here, you would be filling in the C to make it an acute triangle. But watch out, the next one looks the same, but it's not. It's an obtuse triangle, so you'd need something else here for that. And for some of these, there's many possible answers, but that's okay. Just figure out one of the answers, and it should be fine.